Hello, it's Leanne again, and welcome to another embodied cooking class. Today, I am going to be making something a little bit different. I'm making a chana masala, which is kind of it's a chickpea curry with a really delicious spiced tomato sauce. It's classic. I have a recipe for it on my website. I had one of my cookbooks. It is amazing. At the moment, I am doing this very special yoga class for yoga teacher training. And so we are not eating anything that has any kind of upper effect or downer effects. That actually means no onions, no garlic, no spicy anything, no alcohol, no sugar, you get it. And so I've made a Sattvic Chana Masala. Sattvic means these lovely, neutral, calm foods. So I'm making an adaptation of that today that I want to share with you. And I think it'll be really delicious, even if it doesn't have onion and garlic. So before we get into that, when we do this class, I'd like for us to take some really deep cleansing breaths before we begin, because we're going to try to leave behind as much as possible what else has happened during the day and just really be here with the cooking process. And what always supports that is some deep breaths to sort of calm our mind and our body. So let's do that together. You're going to count. I'm going to do count 3. We'll inhale to 3. 1, 2, 3, and out also to 3. 1, 2, 3. Wonderful. And if you want, as you think about it, think about your lungs themselves with 3 spaces in your breathing. First into the bottom, 1, the middle, and finally the top. All the way up to your collarbones and out. 3, 2, 1. And one more big deep breath. 1, 2, 3, and I'm standing up straighter as I breathe and out. 3, 2, 1. All right, so I already feel a little bit more chill. Actually had a very stressful day before this, so I really needed that. And I can feel my feet more planted on the ground. We are ready to begin. I'm going to set our intentions as well. Do this full yoga class style. And my intention, and I would invite you to set your own, is to just really be here and trust that this process of engaging with this as I make this food will calm me down and bring me back to center and to allow me to just appreciate life itself, these simple experiences, and just trust that and kind of not worry. And I really invite you to do the same, not to worry about the outcome, that it needs to look a particular way, and also to let go of time as well, that this needs to be hurried. It's going to take the amount of time that it takes, and we are going to have food, and that is going to be absolutely good enough. Okay. So let's get started. I am going to make some brown rice. No surprise, no white rice allowed in this particular thing. So we're going to do a cup of brown rice. And immediately I just think of this incredibly pleasurable sound of grains of rice hitting each other. And I think about when I was a kid, and I used to love to just like put my fingers into like lentils or anything like this. Just the feeling of your fingers displacing these hard grains. So I don't know what it is. It's just so pleasurable. And that sound as well. Something so fun about that. And so I'm also going to rinse this rice so that we have nice fluffy rice. We're going to take our time doing that. It's so great to rinse rice, your white rice or your brown rice. I'm just a little off camera here. I'm just rinsing it all. You can hear that there's water happening. I'm taking the the colander, and I'm just rinsing the rice sort of until the water runs a little hard to see, but you can just sort of estimate, trying to get rid of the extra, I'm forgetting the name of it right now, but there's the sort of the rice dust that accumulates all over the rice. And that can make your rice really gummy at the end. And when we rinse it, we'll have those nice little fluffy pieces that sort of come out the top, which is what we're usually going for. It is rice. Okay. We will call it done. And I'm just going to pop over, because brown rice takes a little longer than white rice, and pop over to the stove. Just put that in there. And you know what? Because this is kind of a limited menu, we want to get flavor from every place that we can. I'm going to add a little bit of coconut oil to this. And I love to add butter or oil to rice, just gives it a little bit of flavor as you're cooking it. Whoop, a little bit of coconut oil. And that will just coat everything really nicely. Some salt. And I've probably done maybe like a quarter teaspoon, half teaspoon for this 1 cup. And you know what? Let's just use all of these are the spices that I'm going to be using in the chana masala. Cumin powder, cumin seeds, and turmeric. You know what? Probably don't need the cumin powder. You can just use one type of cumin. So a few cumin seeds in here, and a little bit of turmeric. Lovely, bright. As soon as I take off the lid, I can smell how powerful the aroma of turmeric is. Wonderful. And then we're doing 1 cup, so we're going to do about 1.5 cups of water over top. You can also really just eyeball this when you're cooking rice if you want it to sort of be exactly right. This is how you do it. About 1.5 cups. Just make sure it's covered with a little extra. And you can see the little bubbles of the oil separating. Okay, so let's get the rice started. And I have it on a sort of higher to begin with oil, and then we'll turn it very low to cook for a half hour while we do everything else. Right. Okay, the rice is beginning to happen. That makes me feel better. We will have food. Okay, and so the next thing I was thinking is, so traditionally the chana masala is basically you would go over to the pan and you'd toast some spices, and then you'd add onions and garlic, and it's just like flavor, 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 flavor right on top of each other. And when onions only have a very limited range of spices, but we're still going to use them, and we are allowed to use ginger, so we're going to use some ginger. And then we're supposed to use also fresh ingredients. So in my other recipe, I use canned tomatoes just because they're very rich. They're very much available. They're really easy. They're often already completely pureed, which is really nice. We're going to create a puree out of this. So we're going to make the tomato sauce out of this. And then to add some richness that is a little unusual, I'm also going to make some cashew cream. I'm cooking these raw cashews in, I don't know, and I just covered them in water. And depending on the power of blender, I don't think it matters just how long you soak them for. If you have I think up to about 4 hours is really amazing. They'll be really squishy and wonderful, but you can do them for less time or not even use it at all if you have a powerful blender, which I actually am lucky enough to have. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is cut up these tomatoes just a little bit. I am going to put them in the blender, but wouldn't it be hilarious if I put these just straight into the blender? I think it would be messy and weird. It would get confused and be loud. Maybe we could experiment with this sometime, but not today. A little bit. And as we're doing this, I love to ground into the senses, and I'm always talking about what I'm seeing and smelling and hearing, but I want to take you through an exercise called the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And so in that, it's a trauma exercise, and it helps us to just come back when our thoughts are really spiraling, which it's hard to notice, but it actually does often happen when we're doing something as simple as making dinner at home. If we're not careful about it, our brains are, off worrying about something that happened at work, or maybe something that might happen tomorrow, or some scheduling thing, or something that you didn't do, or some incident that occurred earlier. And it's easy to just be what we call dissociated, chopping tomatoes, but somewhere completely different. And so the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 will always bring you back to what you're doing. And the reason that's so important is because this is life. This is actually what we're doing right now. And we don't really want to be missing it, even if sometimes it feels like, well, this is kind of boring. Maybe I can use that time to get something done. I know, especially us like New Yorkers, we're constantly thinking in that way. But I would just challenge that notion. I think across this process, we will notice that there is so much pleasure and enjoyment here, actually. And my senses just told me that the rice is boiling. So I'm going to turn it down to low. And I'm going to set a timer for 30 minutes. Right. Isn't it cool how, because I was here, because I'm paying attention to the room, not really in a way where I'm like, oh, I have to be so focused on the room, but just naturally because I'm here, my senses reminded me of that. Whereas if I'd been hyper focused on performing for you or thinking about what I was doing, I probably wouldn't have noticed that it was boiling till it was really rapidly boiling. Just something to keep in mind. And the other reason that it's so fantastic to sort of be with your senses is that the more we follow the guide of our senses, the more intuitive we can be in our cooking. That will taste as good to you as possible. Knows our senses, they're never really going to guide us into a place that we don't. And that's really how you can kind of become a more confident cook. And when you're a more confident cook, just everything has more ease. You're not so worried about the recipe directly. And you can just make something as you go and know that your senses can guide you. So the 5, 4, with no more jibber jabber, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, we go through each of our 5 senses and we just notice. So we'll start with our eyes. I'm noticing these honestly quite unripe tomatoes. These light, very light orangey tomatoes. Our ginger, see the shine of the knife, the yellow of the turmeric, and our cashews right here. Easy. And for sounds, it's interesting. It's a little bit harder, I guess. I can hear sort of the ambient sound of the room, the sound of my voice. Actually, if I go internally here, there's this feeling, there's a sound of my blood. And then when I make a sound, well, there's my voice. Well, of course, isn't there? So there's always these sounds and the gentle bubble will happen in the back. And then we're going to do feel. And so I guess I'm going to grab the blender. And so I'm going to fill the plastic blender. And I'm going to feel now, the hard surface of this wooden board and these very wet tomatoes and the contrast of the inner part of the tomato and the skin, the outside of the tomato. Now my hands are so wet. It's just something to, my hands are wet. Not much more to it than that, but it's a feeling that I have. And then the smell, well, I absolutely do smell the tomatoes, although it's a very light smell. And I'm going to smell the ginger. Now that packs more of a punch. Very, very powerful. I do love to smell as I'm cooking, and I encourage all of you to do it as well. Just as we say, to cook everything to taste, salt to taste, literally taste so good, but so is smell. And in some ways, when you're cooking something that until after it's cooked, like, we know what a raw kind of this type of tomato tastes like. You already know, right? And you want to wait a little bit until something is fully cooked. Taste it, but you can smelling what's coming out of the pan, smelling here, all you can trust sort of what that is telling you. So smell is really, really important one. And then you know what? I also just tasted that tomato was disappointing. I'm looking for cooking with some flavor to taste good. So I'm going to just blend these up, and we'll also blend a little bit there so that we don't have to. I was going to grate it in there. I think we'll just blend it all together. Take off some of the peel, but you really don't have to if you don't want it. It will not hurt. It's just a little bit of in there. Not really well. It'll probably just be completely pulverized. I'm just going to do a rough sort of peel here. Great. And this is really releasing the ginger juice all over this cutting board. Woo! And yeah, that is intense. I love it. I'm going to cut it up just a little bit to make it easier for the blender because ginger has such a woody texture. Such a woody texture. And I can imagine that getting kind of stuck in the blades. It's so nice when we're able to slow down and notice things like that, which ultimately, even though we're not caring at all about the results, it will have a better result. So I'm going to go over here and there is my blender. Okay, incoming loud, probably not so relaxing noise. Right. That was fun. Okay. So we are going to make just a cooked tomato sauce that we're going to infuse with lots and lots and lots of flavor. We're going to start again with coconut oil. And you could use olive oil or really any kind of vegetable oil, but it's coconut oil. It's actually fun choice. It's lovely pure oil, and it has such a nice, nutty, sweet kind of flavor. And when we're cooking with so few ingredients, it's really nice for everything to kind of do something. And so getting a little more sweet from something is just nice. I'm going to let this heat up. And I'm going to grab the cumin seeds. You know what? I think I'm going to leave. You can do coriander seeds as well, and that I happen to have. Maybe some seeds too. So we're just going to let this, again, my senses are sort of showing me when this begins to really heat up. I can see a little bit, it's like the heat is beginning to come out. It's not even, it's smoke, it's in, it's bubbling. It sort of begins to separate and become a slightly different thickness, which is really cool. It gets like thin, so you can really tell that this is starting to be something that I think will sizzle when we add our spice. I'm gonna add, I don't know, that's probably like half a teaspoon of cumin seeds. Oh, it's not really sizzling too much yet, but soon enough. And now it is, I see the little bubbles. Oh, but immediately, despite the lack of sizzle, and now it's sizzling. The smell, the aroma of cumin just is hitting you right in the face. And that's a good thing. And so this is such an important step, cooking the spices in the oil, in fat. Because basically what we're doing is we are infusing the oil with the flavor of the spices. And then that in turn means that everything that the oil touches, which is going to be the sauce, like every little part of the sauce, will be then infused with the spice. So sometimes, you know, you might have experienced making a stew or something, and you just at the end will throw in, you know, I'm putting some oregano in this or something like later on. And you're like, why is this so flavorless and bland? And the reason is because when you cook spices early in the oil actually acts as the catalyst. It's the thing that gets all the flavor into your food. So it's so, so, so important. And just makes everything taste so much better. The smell, the warmth of the coconut oil. It's like, it just makes me think of sunshine, you know, like that smell of sun on your skin. Maybe it's kind of make me think of sunscreen, actually. That's kind of funny, that coconut sunscreen. So that we barely need anything on there. Then I'm just going to add a little bit of turmeric right here. Woo! Slight turmeric explosion. That was cute. Speaking of sunshine, oh my goodness, so beautiful. That's the other reason I really like to add. Okay, I think there's going to be a splatter. Loud. Let's see. Very fun. Look at the oil is separating out here. And there's all the, ugh, this looks so good. Tomatoes and oil together. There's some primal part of me that just like starts to salivate at just that, the look of that. Tomato and oil and the way that it separates. So delicious. Oh, and it's already become a beautiful color because of the turmeric. It truly smells wonderful. And so I'm just going to turn this down a little bit because it is already boiling. And what we're going to do is we're going to kind of leave it to cook for a little while until the oil again begins to separate. Like now that we've mixed it all in, and it will just start to separate. And at that point, we are going to have right in here a bunch of cooked chickpeas. And we'll just add that in. And then we'll add, oh, you know what? I forgot about our cashews. We're going to do the cashew cream. So maybe we'll make the cashew cream and then we'll add it once this is cooked down a bit. We're going to kind of lose some of the water, the wateriness off of here, and we're going to basically concentrate the flavors. And you know it's concentrating the flavor because it starts to just smell so much better. Okay, so I'm going to very quickly rinse this out and we'll do our cashews. All right, not a very good job of rinsing. It doesn't matter because it's all the same thing. This is going to be like kind of rich. I'm excited about this. This is exciting for me. I love cooking this way where I am kind of making it up as I go. A little bit. I had a bit of a plan. Kind of knew what I was doing, but I can still make it up as I go. Oh, and I didn't salt this yet, so I am going to salt this. And so I'm just using my fingers. Probably got, what do we do? Use like maybe a teaspoon or so. But this is quite a bit of stuff. And I believe my chickpeas are already salted, so I'm not going to over salt this. I'm just going to do it to that extent. And then once it's cooked down and the water has cooked out of it a little bit, I'm going to taste it. And salt. This is what's done. Gee, that's a sensation that you can only get with cooking. What a joy. Okay. Now I am going to clonk, clonk. The sounds of clonking. Blitz up my cashews. Into the cashew cream. Okay. Here we go. Check on this situation. Ooh, it looks good. What a nice consistency. Wow. I mean, almost too easy sometimes, you know? Like, what a pleasing texture. Just perfectly coats my finger. This feels like exactly what I want. I wouldn't change a thing. I think that if you are making this on, and you're not on a cleanse you can add all kinds of flavors to this. You can make it sort of more cheesy, like vegan cheese kind of situation, or you can add mustard and like add it into dressings and things like that. This is a very exciting substance, in my opinion. Oh, I am truly feeling better than I was earlier. I was stressed. And the experience of this, of not rushing, of just allowing us, we're going to have rice, we're going to have this 2 pots. But and then it's still very simple. It doesn't take all that long. The whole time is relaxing. I'm enjoying this. I'm able to connect with this. I'm not trying to also make a sauce and a gazillion other things. And I'm probably taking, because I'm talking to you about it the whole time, everything is actually taking a little bit longer. You could probably just really sit here and just listen to the bubbling if you wanted to. We could listen to some music. We could read something. We could listen to a podcast, of course. But I do think there is something so healing and lovely about just being here with the actual cooking process for a little while. Just asking yourself to do that and see what pleasures you can find in it. I'm just getting rid of some of these extra bits. I'm noticing, actually, there's almost some separation happening already. This is actually pretty quick. I guess because we have such a nice wide pan. Ooh, it's a little spitty. Yikes. Tomatoes will do that. I'm going to have to clean this up later. That's okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to turn this down a little bit. Oh, yeah. I'm going to turn this down, and you know what, because I'm thinking we still have 11 minutes to wait for our rice. And we can't eat until then. So we might as well take our time. But let's add the chickpeas in now, just to allow them to get more flavor. And I am really guessing how much. I would say this is probably about 2 cans. I'm going to try to add like 2 standard cans worth of chickpeas. We are cooking them dry. 3-ish cups, 3.5 cups. That looks great. Got a stir. And I'm just eyeballing this thinking, how much sauce do I want? You know, how much chickpea? I'm thinking about, I'm going to be serving with rice as well. And I want to have enough sauce that, you know, it'll really also be dripping all over the rice. And we're not going to be having any sort of dry experience here. Yeah, I think I'm going to do just a few more chickpeas, especially because we're going to be adding the cashew cream in. That's going to add a little more volume to our sauce. So that looks good to me now. Mm-hmm. All right. And I'm going to grab a spoon and taste it for salt and anything else that it needs. Oh, and I definitely want to add cilantro, which I will grab in a little bit at the end, just at the end. And if you are a cilantro hater, just skip it. No problem. You can totally add other herbs if you want to. Even basil, actually, would be really good. But it is nice to end with something, or again, if it's not a sattvic thing, could do scallions at the end, like the nice green ends. Okay. I'm excited to try this. I'm mostly trying the sauce. Okay. It's good. I slightly overdid these seeds from already. They are a little powerful, but that's okay. And I think it's salt, because we're going to add some cashew cream and maybe balance it out. We'll see. And if not, it's okay. It's okay to have an experiment that is pretty good, but not completely amazing. I'm learning all the time. And the exciting thing about learning in this way is that this is kind of learning not sort of from books, from memorizing, from saying like, oh, I know that recipe because I've done it. You know, I've done it 20 times, or I've just memorized it. But actually from experience that you then are able to hold in your body, which means it can be pulled out at any time. It will just be there for you. And the way that we build that is by being actually here now. If I was off like thinking about my work emails, instead of noticing these types of things, that learning would actually be lost. And that's why, of course, it's wonderful to follow recipes and to have a guide and to begin somewhere. But I believe so much in this style of cooking because it allows us to really commune with our natural ability, which is that we're human beings. And our bodies know what we like to eat, and it knows what tastes good, and it knows how it will go together. And if we can just sort of be quiet and trust that and listen to that, it guides us very, very well. And sometimes when it doesn't, like when I put in too many seeds and I'm a little bit bitter, we can learn from that experience because we were here and we were able to notice it. And we also don't have to beat ourselves up about that because it's all part of the experience. Add some all this cashew cream because it's really hot. Oh my gosh. It looks like how decadent and fabulous does it look. I'm going to use a lot of it and then I'm going to save some for so pretty. That's the other fun thing about this type of cooking is you can choose to, look at these colors coming together from this sort of orange, this really bright, fiery, like autumn orange to this creamy, luscious looking, light orangey, yellowy, sunshiny. Oh, goodness. Wow. Pretty good. Wow. That's pretty special. I'm excited about the look of this. Let's see about the taste. It's so good, actually. Oh my goodness. Wow. The texture of this sauce is amazing. Oh, I'm feeling very smug now about this, which is also a pretty fun feeling to get to have. Wow, that's delicious. I'm thrilled. Well, I think I'm just going to leave this for a moment now. We're done over here. I'm just going to put it on low to basically stay warm and let the chickpeas maybe take on a little bit more flavor while we allow the rice. Yep, looking great. Not quite done. And some cilantro because I like it. And we will get ready to plate this. Okay. Actually has been to cook in this way where I've such a limited group of ingredients that I am able to work with. How it's really brought out, I don't even know if creativity is the right word, but because it doesn't feel necessarily that creative to add cashew sauce to this. It just feels like, well, I don't have a lot, so I might as well. I've been trying different combinations than I normally do, just sort of out of necessity. And that is meaning I'm having these new experiences of tasting things and noticing textures and just noticing things in a completely different way than I normally do. Where I don't sort of go with, okay, well, this is how you make this. Like, of course, I'm going to add this thing because that's what a chana masala is. I'm having to adapt and therefore end up having kind of a new and exciting experience. I'm really liking it, actually. It's weird. Okay, let's get some cilantro happening. or cilantro. I never know quite how to say it. For those of you who hate it, I am sorry. But for those of us that enjoy it, it really does have the most incredibly grassy and just outdoor kind of smell to it that is really, really nice. I think that's probably enough. And I use the stems and I threw some on the floor. I use the stems and the leaves. And you could be very, very careful about it and just grab a few little leaves to put on top if we want to make everything so beautiful and precious. Or you can do what I just did. All right. Cleaning, which is part of the process. Definitely not, admittedly, my favorite part. But when I do that I'm doing, it simply becomes part of the experience. Wow. You know? So let's check on. Don't even need to check on anything. You know, just stand here for a minute, and that is okay. I think it's so. Again, it's sort of hard doing this. I guess I'll just acknowledge that I'm asking us all to do something that's kind of hard in our culture, to actually slow down and just stay here. Like, this is meditation. This is so antithetical to everything that we're asked to do, you know, to multitask, to be so productive, right? How dare I take longer than necessary to like make this food? Like, those voices definitely come up even as I'm going here. Or I think, oh my gosh, am I being entertaining enough? Am I going quickly enough? Am I giving people enough information? Timer off. I'll turn this off and bring it over here. But this really is a trust exercise. Coming back into like your human body. Like, this is a way to do it through cooking, through yoga, meditation. People have so many different ways of doing this. Going for a long walk, whatever it is that sort of allows you to come back into your human body and notice. It's actually quite nice here. It's like very comfortable just being in your body. Sometimes it's not, you know, sometimes you're like, oh gosh, my hips really hurt. That's okay too. That's good information to have. But it's nice here. And there are a million thoughts like coming and going all the time. And that is sometimes. We can just sort of let those go. Just be sort of the full focus of doing one thing and noticing just how well we just let it be sort of simple. Okay, so I'm going to do some rice. Look how cute that is. It's all fluffy because we rinsed our rice and the steam is rising off of it. And the little cumin seeds rose to the top. Beautiful. Just going to pile it on this gorgeous plate too. I'm feeling very grateful for that. Just pile that in the center. Mm-hmm. Okay, and how am I going to serve? I think I need a little. Do I have a spoon? Yeah, this will work for me. I'm going to spoon some of this absolutely ridiculous Sattvic. I mean, Sattvic Chana Masala. Oh, wow. That looks incredible to me. And then I'm just going to be, like I said, I'm going to be like a little extra because I have more cashew cream. Notice how beautiful it looked when it was in drizzle form. So we're going to like drizzle some more cashew cream. Wow. Boop, 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 boop. Beautiful. Yum. And then we're going to do, it's because I'm just do some of the cilantro here. Rain from on high. I mean, that looks really good, doesn't it? I'm excited. And so I want us to do, this is really hot still also, so I'm going to wait a second to eat it. I want to close this out with a gratitude practice. And so what I like to do is just take our plated food and just notice there's so much to be grateful for here. There's so many layers. There is grateful for ourselves, for the efforts that we've put in right now to make it. Also maybe for ourselves or other members of our household, for the effort that they put in to make money to buy these things, to grow them. And then the people who did grow them. If this was bought at a grocery store, people who grew them, picked them, shipped them, sold them to you. People who drove the trucks that brought them to us. For all the sort of ancient wisdom that is within this recipe, this ancient recipe that people have been making for hundreds and hundreds of years. For all of that, for the wisdom, I guess, of our bodies, for knowing how to do this and how to enjoy, like how cool is it that we get to enjoy something that makes our bodies go? Like what? We get to find such pleasure in something that we absolutely have to do every day in order for a body to function. That is some really great planning. And when I think about all of those people who sort of contributed to this, it also makes me feel like I'm never alone when I'm looking at my food. So now I'm going to taste it. Again, oh my gosh. I really like this dish. I'm so excited about it. Whew, I may have to write this down. Who needs onion and garlic when you have cashews, I guess, right? This is really delicious. Right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today in this experience of slowing down, this embodied practice of cooking. That's sometimes a little bit hard, sometimes a little bit challenging. And I just want us to come back, if we would, to our intention at the beginning, which was to really be here. And now to notice how we feel as opposed to how we felt when we maybe showed up here. Is there a difference? And can we just be with that? I know for me, I do feel much more calm. And, part of that might be like, oh, well, I'm done doing my class. But I do believe a lot of it is the process of just being with the senses and just being here now and the soothing nature of that. And I appreciate it. And I appreciate you all for showing up. Thank you. The end.